Well, good morning. Hope everyone is doing well. Thank you for inviting me to join you today, and thank you for being supporters of this vital issue that impacts communities across this nation. As the world's largest business organization, with members ranging from small businesses to global corporations, it's vitally important for state, local, and federal government and the U.S. Chamber to continue building our relationships as both trusted partners and valuable resources for each other. At FEMA, we know the key to helping communities recover from disasters quicker, and mitigating future disasters is the resilience of both the local community and the local economy. The reason I'm so adamant about this fact is because I've seen firsthand not only the devastating effects of natural disasters, but the resurgence and rebuilding of local communities post-disaster. Before coming to FEMA as Deputy Administrator, I served the state of North Carolina for over 30 years, most recently as the Secretary of Public Safety, and as Mark said, leading the Division of Emergency Management as part of that portfolio, as well as 12,000 National Guard troops and airmen. I've been fortunate to witness the service of some of our most outstanding first responders and military personnel during some of the most difficult events that our country can experience. They rise to the occasion and face the toughest challenge. I will never forget these heroes as we talk about our mission at FEMA to help people before, during, and after disasters. The work that they do and the silent heroes behind the scenes, like many of you, is a constant inspiration to me daily. I was in North Carolina in 2018 when Hurricane Florence made landfall. Although the wind shear by that point was not as intense, the subsequent flooding led to Florence becoming the costliest disaster in the state's history, with almost $17 billion in damage and more than 75,000 damaged structures, many of which had been previously impacted by Hurricane Matthew. Without the partnerships cultivated between state and local governments and the private sector, I know our recovery would not have been as successful or quick. Those partnerships and the spirit of collaboration helped thousands of my fellow North Carolinians get back to a sense of normalcy after some of the worst days of their life. The other part of community response to disasters come from the partnerships of federal, state, local, and tribal governments have with those from the private sector and nonprofit sectors to fill the gaps that we cannot fill alone. Businesses of all sizes, faith-based groups, the nonprofit sector, and the American public, time and time again, step up in times of need because we recognize the power that comes with working together for good. Understanding this, FEMA established the National Business Emergency Operations Center 10 years ago to build trust and improve information flow between private industry and public entities before, during, and after disasters. I hope some of you have the opportunity to attend the panel highlighting this decade of public-private coordination through the NBEOC. It has become a replicable model for state and local leaders to follow. In my home state of North Carolina, the Business Emergency Operations Center is a robust private sector partnership that helped us create a more resilient state. The center is both a physical and a virtual presence inside the State Emergency Operations Center. The private sector has 24-hour access to government via Web EOC, a common operating picture, giving the private sector a seat at the table, again, before, during, and after disasters. Private sector manager Persia Payne Hurley, my dear friend and colleague, is here with us today. Persia, I am so grateful for your leadership and all that you have taught me and so many in this arena, and I'm eternally indebted for your service to our state and to our nation. Please give Persia a hand. During disasters, the North Carolina BOC operationalizes the private sector to partner with government agencies to stabilize systems, answer county resource requests, support community recovery, and share operational information to keep businesses going. Persia and her staff engages the private sector year-round through planning, training, exercises, and unique initiatives that support counties and businesses. The private sector program and the business EOC leverages the collective strength of the private sector and public sector with resilient, focused actions. This level of information sharing and collaboration is critical for improving the responsiveness to meet the ever-evolving disaster landscape in a world changed by climate. FEMA has also established its Office of Business, Industry, and Infrastructure Integration, or OB3I. Through this office, we're working to transform our private-public partnerships to confront shared risk and ever-evolving challenges. We all know that the threat landscape has evolved significantly over the last 2 decades. Adversarial, nation-state aggression has shifted from overt military action against the homeland to cyber threats to by both state-sponsored actors and individual rogue actors. Because of this, it's more important than ever for the federal government and our private sector partners to collaborate in real time. A great example of this partnership is the Port of Los Angeles. The port itself is the busiest port in the Western Hemisphere, handling almost $250 billion worth of cargo every year and providing jobs to almost 500,000 people in the greater Los Angeles area. I had the privilege to visit the port a few months ago as part of their Fleet Week exercise and participated in a panel on how the port and the nation would respond to a catastrophic earthquake in the area. Although the focus of the exercise was a natural disaster, just a few days ago I was made aware of an article describing how the port now faces 40 million, let me repeat that, 40 million cyber attacks per month. Extraordinary. Due to this ever-present and ongoing threat, the port has teamed with the Federal Bureau of Investigation cybercrime team to prevent attacks and improve cyber security. The port has invested millions of dollars in cyber protection, developing one of the world's first cyber resilient centers, which is part of the FBI, to provide enhanced intelligence gathering and heightened protection against cyber threats within the maritime supply chain. It is exactly these kinds of partnerships which will help us be successful in building a more secure, prepared, and resilient nation. Shifting gears, I would also like to talk a little bit more about the work that FEMA is doing. As extreme heat, massive wildfires, and more powerful storms and other natural hazards arrive with greater frequency, we must do more to mitigate the impact of these events, which have a great human and economic toll. FEMA has received tremendous support from the Congress and the Biden-Harris administration. The bipartisan infrastructure law allocated $5.8 billion to FEMA to mitigate the threat of climate change and costs related from severe weather events while reducing human suffering. In recent decades, the cost of disasters has risen to drastically unsustainable levels. Our partnership with the private sector to mitigate the effects of and recover quickly from disasters will be critical to the future of our nation. Our OB3I office hosts monthly stakeholder coordination calls with FEMA program offices, the the private sector audience, including energy sector partners, to strengthen our wildfire prevention, preparedness, response, and mitigation efforts. Also, in collaboration with our sister agency, CISA's Energy Sector Risk Management Agency, OB3I coordinates with key national and rural energy sector associations covering more than 37 states. I'd like to talk a little bit about building community resilience. This emphasis on building community resilience is not new. FEMA has long engaged in this process as a part of our preparedness strategies for our nation's communities. As most of you know, the business case is strong for resilient building initiatives. For every dollar on mitigation, we can save $6 in future disaster costs, which is why it's critical that we shift mitigation forward before a disaster occurs. When we work with communities to adopt stronger building codes, the rate of return is even higher, avoiding $11 in future losses for every dollar spent. There's great value in mitigation and resilience building measures for communities and our nation. This week, President Biden announced nearly $2.3 billion in fiscal year 2022 for FEMA's Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities. We call it BRIC, more than doubling the fiscal year funding from 2021. BRIC is a game-changing opportunity for our nation to increase our investments in mitigation projects. This program intends to categorically shift the federal focus from reactive disaster spending toward research-supported, proactive investment in community resilience. So when a hurricane, flood, wildfire, tornado comes, communities are more resilient. Through BRIC, FEMA will fund projects which demonstrate innovative approaches to partnerships, such as shared funding mechanisms and/or project design. For example, an innovative project may bring multiple funding sources or in-kind resources from a range of private and public stakeholders to offer multiple benefits to a community in addition to the risk reduction. Earlier this year, we launched our new Swift Current initiative, which is providing $60 million to flood-prone homeowners in Louisiana, Mississippi, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. And 40% of that money is targeted toward underserved communities. BRIC funding also established a new cybersecurity grant program, helping our nation react to the newest and most persistent type of threat which nation states pose to our homeland at any given time. Additionally, the bipartisan infrastructure law provided $500 million to Safeguarding Tomorrow through Ongoing Risk Mitigation Act. We refer to it as the STORM Act. This new FEMA grant program allocates $100 million over 5 years to finance water, wastewater, infrastructure, disaster recovery, community and small business development projects in order to reduce risk from disasters and natural hazards. The values we share, both in government, private, and nonprofit sectors, and the goals that we have for our nation allow us to prepare and plan during blue sky days and respond and support communities when the clouds are on the horizon. The work we do at FEMA is enhanced when we have the support across public and private sectors. We cannot make transformational change, meaningfully increase mitigation, and reduce human suffering from disasters for the next generation on our own. This work requires a higher level of effort, deliberate planning, and coordination at all levels to identify and execute mitigation measures that build resilience. This work requires continued and growing partnerships such as the Build Strong Coalition and citizens and academia, industry, private sector, and government partners, all equipped to bring new and innovative ways of thinking. I know that if we work together to strengthen the private-public partnerships, we'll be able to meet the challenges of today's disaster response and secure a brighter future for generations yet to come. Thank you for your time. Enjoy your conference, and it's indeed an honor to be before you this morning.